all of your favorite recipes. Simply Food.
You should know by now that you're in for a treat.
Simply Food.
There's no other channel where you'd rather be.
Simply Food. Seafood, pasta, cakes, and pies. Sing and laugh and even cry. Like and share and hit subscribe. Simply Food by TY.
Hey, what's up, you guys? It's your boy Simply Food by TY, and today I'm going to be teaching you all how to make these delicious Peach Dream Cheesecake bars, okay? So let's jump right into it because there's a lot of steps, but I promise you it is really easy to make. So get yourself a food processor, or honestly, if you don't have a food processor, you can put it in a Ziploc bag and just kind of bang it out with the bottom of a pan. You know, do whatever you got to do. You can get the kids to do this. You want to really grind these down so that it'll be to about the texture of sand. I've put in 14 full sleeves of the Honey Made cinnamon graham crackers. If you cannot find the cinnamon kind, or if they're sold out in your local grocery store, that's totally fine. Just use regular graham crackers, and you can put in about like a teaspoon or so of cinnamon just to give that little kick. So we're going to transfer that to a bowl, and before you add the next ingredient, run your fingers through it just to really make sure that it is sand texture, okay? You don't want any big chunks. You're going to add in 2 tablespoons of brown sugar as well as 4 tablespoons of unsalted butter. Now, you know I always go on and on about Kerrygold butter, but when it comes to baking, you don't necessarily need to be worried about using Kerrygold. I kind of tend to use that for savory dishes. So for this, you can use whatever you would like. Have your oven preheated at 350 degrees, and now we're going to transfer this to a lined baking dish. This is, I think, like a 9 by 12 dish, I think. And as you can see, I also put some parchment paper in the bottom. Now that is very important because by having the parchment paper in there, you'll be able to lift the entire cheesecake bar out of this baking pan before you go to slice it up. So it'll just make it easier. Pop that in the oven, let that bake for 8 minutes. Once it's done, just sit it to the side and allow that to start to cool off. So now what we're doing is we're starting to add in all of our cheesecake mixture. So what we have here are 4 8-ounce blocks of cream cheese that I've already let softened. I'm adding in roughly about 1.5 to 2 cups of sugar. Now, of course, you can really gauge that on how much sugar you would like to add. That's completely up to you. You want to allow that to cream so that that gets nice and soft. Just to help yourself out, definitely make sure that all of these ingredients are room temperature, okay? It'll just make it a whole lot easier for you. And make sure, of course, you're gradually scraping down the sides so that if any of that sugar is getting caked up on the side, you can then make sure that you are getting it off. Now, I'm going to be adding in this entire tub of mascarpone cheese. This is going to add an immense amount of flavor, and it's just, I mean, mascarpone cheese, if you've never had it before, is absolutely fabulous. So we're going to add that entire thing in there, and then you're going to go ahead and start mixing that around as well. But before we do that, we're going to put in a 1/2 cup of sour cream. Once again, you want to make sure that that is also at room temperature. The key to making sure that your cheesecake does not crack is when you're mixing up all of the ingredients is to make sure that they are at the same temperature. We're also going to add in a nice tablespoon of the Nielsen Macy's vanilla bean paste. You guys know I love that. So now we're going to go ahead and continue to let this cream as well. Once again, make sure that you're scraping down the sides if you need to do so, which I'm sure you will. And then you're going to start to gradually start to add in 5 large eggs. Now you want to make sure you're doing this one at a time, just so that you can make sure that one, you don't have to over mix this, but also so that you can make sure that the eggs are definitely being fully incorporated. Of course, if more than one falls in at a time, that's completely fine. The key to making the perfect cheesecake, whether it's a regular cheesecake or cheesecake bars or whatever the case is that you want to, one, make sure that your batter stays nice and smooth, and also you really want to make sure that that you don't overmix it. If you overmix it, it's going to create way too many air pockets, and then you're going to end up with a lot of cracks at the top of your cheesecake. And I'll give you some tips later on when we get to baking that on how to prevent a lot of cracks from happening on your cheesecake bars. Luckily, because we're going to be topping this off with some peaches, if there's some cracks, that's totally fine. but you know, I just thought I'd throw that out there. So once those eggs are pretty much mixed in, take it off of the stand mixer and then do the last bit of mixing by hand. That way you can really make sure you're not over whisking it. Right, what you see right now, that is like the perfect consistency. It's nice and smooth. So at this point we can just stop messing around with it because we're going to be adding in a few other ingredients in a moment anyway. So that's going to require a little bit more whisking, so we'll leave that alone. So now that our crust has cooled off for, I would say probably about, I don't know, 10-15 minutes. You just want it to be about room temperature, not hot. We're going to add in 2 full cups of the plain cheesecake mixture, okay? Now this is just so that we can create that kind of, that feel of, oh, I'm biting into regular cheesecake, but oh, I'm also now biting into a bit of like a peach cheesecake. It's just to create different layers. Now, if you want, you can completely skip this step of doing the layers, and you can just completely make it all just one flavor. That's completely fine. Don't stress yourself out about that. Now we're just going to easily spread this out. Now you really want to make sure you're taking your time with this, because although that crust is, you know, it's been baked and, you know, it's nice and solid, you don't want to be too rough because it can be easily broken at this point. And you don't want to have it all mixed in with that first layer of the cream cheese. So just take the back of a spoon and just really gently spread it out. You definitely want to make sure it's nice and even, because once again, you're building the base for your cheesecake bars, okay? So make sure it goes all the way over to the side. You can sit that in the fridge for the next few minutes. Now I'm going to be using some peach preserves. I'm putting in a half a cup. Now, if you cannot find peach preserves, you know, you can use a peach pie filling if you would like. But if I were you, I would really add in little by little so that you can taste it, because it's going to be a whole lot sweeter, okay? But you can use whatever type of peach jam, peach preserve that you enjoy. And now we're just going to give that a good mix. And so what that's doing is that's really infusing that cheesecake mixture with some real nice peach flavor, okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to take that, and now we're going to pour that over our first layer. Make sure once again that your oven is still on. Don't turn your oven off. You want to keep it at 350 degrees, because what you're going to do now is you're going to put this in the oven uncovered, you guys, uncovered for 45 minutes. Now, to prevent it from cracking, if you would like, you can put a pan underneath of it and just have a little bit of water in it. A little bit of steam sometimes can help cheesecakes from cracking. That's just like a pro tip, but you do not have to do that, okay? Don't worry. This is only going to be in there for about 45 minutes at 350 degrees anyway for the first step, so you don't really have to worry about too much cracking going on. So once you get that nice and smooth, like I said, put that in the oven, and then now it's time, of course, to start working on the peaches. So I'm going to put in about 4 tablespoons of unsalted butter. I'm also going to be adding in a half a cup of brown sugar. If you want, you can also add in a little bit of vanilla if you would like. I didn't, just because I feel like I have enough vanilla in the cheesecake mixture itself. And at this point, we're kind of creating, I would say, somewhat like a caramel sauce, but don't feel the need to have to really wait until it truly caramelizes. Honestly, once that butter melts, you're doing just fine. Now, I'm going to be adding in the Libby's peach slices in the heavy syrup. I used 2 cans. I poured the syrup off of both of them, okay? Now, there's a little bit left behind. That's totally fine. You don't want too much liquid, because that's just going to require you to have to cook this longer than what's necessary. So you're just going to allow that to cook, I would say, uncovered for about, 10 to 15 minutes until most of that liquid has evaporated and that brown sugar has really soaked into those peaches. Now, as you can see, I am slowly laying these on to this cheesecake. And the reason why you might notice it is that cheesecake is not fully cooked. And so if you just go dumping them all on there, you're going to puncture the top of your cheesecake, and you don't want that. So just gently lay them on the top, and you're going to place that back in the oven at 350 degrees for an additional 30 minutes. Feel free to pour that juice right on the top, okay? After you guys allow that to cook for an additional 30 minutes, you're going to turn the oven off. You're going to open the oven and allow it to cool inside of the oven, okay? Allow it to cool in the oven for 2 hours. Then you're going to sit it on the counter, allow it to cool on the counter for 1 hour. That's a total of 3 hours that you're going to allow this to cool. The reason why is cheesecakes, you have to allow it to gradually drop in temperature. If it cools down too quickly, it will crack and fall apart. Once it drastically cools down, put aluminum foil on it, put it in the fridge, and now we're at the next day. You want to allow it to cool in the fridge for overnight so that you can get some nice firm cheesecake bars. And as you can see, I was able to pull that out of our baking dish with complete ease, which is the reason why that parchment paper is so incredibly important. And as you can see, it has cooked up perfectly. And now, honey, just cut yourself up some slices. So this is one of those type of recipes where it takes, 2 days to make, but I promise you, it makes a lot of them, so they'll last throughout the week, especially if you cut them on the smaller side, and they're absolutely divine. To me, they're not overly sweet, they're just right. And so, yeah, these are my Peach Dream Cheesecake Bars. Look, if you're new to my channel, welcome to Simply Food by TY. If you're one of my returning subscribers, well, y'all babies know I love y'all so much. And as always, y'all babies, stay cute and take care and enjoy, y'all. My God. I mean, they're absolutely everything. The peaches aren't going to fall off. They're nice and firm. They're just absolutely delicious. I'll talk to y'all soon. Bye, guys.
Slaying in the kitchen.
Simply Food by TY.
We hope that you enjoyed it.
Simply Food by TY. If you haven't took the time, make sure you subscribe. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching Simply Food.